Thank you so much, Lucia. So before we welcome the main character of the day, Stefan, perhaps here I could provide you a little bit more kind of contextual information about Urban Transition Alliance. So Urban Transition Alliance is a city network launched in 2017. The basic thing of this city network is a network of industrial legacy cities. We can see this is really a peer-to-peer learning knowledge platform where cities learn from each other about policy innovations and transfer one experience to another one. So in Urban Transition Alliance, we have open challenge innovation as the core of our, we can say, structure. So to speak, every year we would take on 4 to 5 different challenges from 4 to 5 different cities with very different thematic topic. And we help the city to address those challenges by co-create a solution problem-solving process within the Alliance member, also with external expertise and solution provider. And we are very happy Gelsenkirchen is one of the city we are working with this year. So I'll stop here, then I would just give the floor now to Stefan Ras, and he will give you more information about what is the challenge the city of Gelsenkirchen, which is located in West Germany, is facing currently.
Yes, thank you, Yingqi. Thank you, Lucia, for introducing all of us. So, as already was said, the city of Gelsenkirchen was brought here on the invitation of the Urban Transition Alliance in context with our challenge this year. And the challenge, the participatory challenge of how to commit private businesses to climate action is based on the notion that so far ambitious emission reduction goals cities had in the past mostly failed due to insufficient contribution from the private sector, you know, by energy companies, housing companies, industrial production centers. But we also know that these are the areas where there lies the greatest potential of emission reduction. But the city municipality also has very little influence in this area. And this is the basis where we kind of, we base our challenge on. And this led us to the question, how do you successfully engage local businesses to contribute to climate action on their own, you know, in a sense of self-commitment? And, you know, just to give you a quick overview, Yingqi also started with it about the city of Gelsenkirchen. It's located in the most populated area of Western Germany, North Rhine-Westphalia, quite central actually, also in the rural region, city network of industrial mining legacy cities. And as you can see, it's also very well connected to several highways and river paths. So that's the kind of city we're dealing with right now. And Gelsenkirchen is still, to this day, a city heavily characterized by structural change, as Yingqi also said already. The coal and steel crisis in Germany in the 60s, 70s led to a heavy structural change, also to depopulation. The city is still characterized by a high rate of unemployment. The city has limited funds due to low tax revenues. There is a kind of uptick now, an upward trend in terms of renewal projects and smart city projects, education projects, but there are still ongoing weaknesses that we have to deal with until to this day. And this is also why we're part of the Urban Transition Alliance. The heavy job loss in the legacy sectors are still present to this day, lead to social inequity, and we hope by focusing on the clean energy transformation, we can not only benefit the structural change and raise equity again, but also secure high quality jobs and investments so far absent from the city to this day. We're also trying to focus a special education strategy on sustainability and future-proof industries, so we can create opportunities for many of the socially deprived families in the city. And to take a look at some on the point of view of the city, where we're basing our challenge on is now on the climate action plan the city is drafting currently. And this looks at 2030, 2050 for climate neutrality. And the climate action plan the city is currently drafting incorporates measures of climate protection as well as adaptation, which is very good to take an integrated approach to this. And it's also acknowledging the increasing pressure of climate change, the rising dynamic of climate change. And so it switches to the carbon budget methodology, instead of just looking at yearly reduction goals in terms of how many % emissions do we want to reduce each year. It's looking at that gap of ambition of previously politically agreed upon goals and what kind of carbon budget do we actually have left to stay in the Paris Agreement, in the kind of corridor to reduce climate change to a certain degree. And based on this, we're trying to come up with a tool. That's the tool we are looking at so far. And that's the central point, basically, of my presentation. We're looking at a network that we're trying to implement that's called the Climate Forum. So we want to use this Climate Forum to connect and encourage stakeholders in the city to implement and develop projects on their own to tackle climate change and adaptation problems. And we want them to support the ambitious reduction goals of the city, because as I've already talked about, the city so far is there are areas of influence where the city has very little, power to reduce emissions. And this climate forum, this network, will be is planned to be maintained by Science Park Gelsenkirchen, where I'm from, because as a 100% subsidiary of the city, we do have a long history of climate-related projects. We are very well connected to local businesses and can, kind of be in a more neutral positions between the city government and local businesses. And we hope that this this network and projects by members of this network will contribute to a more sustainable city for all. So it could also free up resources of the government, of the municipality, for more pressing social matters in the city. And this is a bit of it's a big plan, but so far we are now in the middle of kind of a soft launch of this network, where we are holding one-on-one talks with some of the most important stakeholders, energy companies, housing companies, to inquire what are their reduction goals, what are their plans, scenarios, what are they already doing, what can they do, what do they need still. Do they need any kind of support? And we are also in the middle of launching a website where we can talk about some best practice projects some local businesses already had so far, to kind of create, an echo chamber of best practices to motivate other players. And when the climate action plan by the city council has been passed at the end of this year, hopefully, we are trying to fully launch this network. Also use a kind of digital platform to embed this whole network and to build a community of exchange and knowledge, where we are looking at a very operational kind of level where people can quickly exchange ideas, start projects, find synergies in their own projects. And on the other hand, this is the part B, we are also looking to expand the communication on the website to talk about projects of the members then of the forum, to communicate those outside to other non-members so far, to the general public, to also create a kind of win-win situation for members of this forum. And this is our challenge then, basically, how do we most successfully, launch this kind of forum? And as you can see, it's a two-part kind of challenge. We have a methodological part. We now have a website where we communicate local best practices from some pioneers, but we also want to create, as I said, a separate space where members can share knowledge and connect on a more operational levels to initiate projects. We also have a strategical kind of part of this challenge, where we're looking for, we're researching right now, and we're looking for other communications and networking strategies to achieve some real commitment from members, and to build convincing cases for them to restructure and invest in their business. We're asking ourselves, is it maybe the most successful idea to pressurize businesses by pointing to best practices from competitors around town or around the region? And so we have a twofold kind of challenge. We're asking ourselves, how do we embed this networking aspect on the platform digitally? We want to implement this in a digital way because we think a digital platform can better handle the complexity of some huge projects dealing with climate change and adaptation. Could also raise speed of cooperation, very important in this time, especially looking at the emission reduction so far. It will also be more resilient in the long term. Looking at COVID, we're still 1 year behind COVID. We're still only networking digitally, so why not use it in the first place? And on the strategical part, we're looking at strategies how to address the stakeholders so that they really commit themselves in a reliable way. And this is basically our challenge right now. And I will talk about some more of the context and details in the listening room. So, so far, I'd like to thank you for listening.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you so much. So I think, yeah, by now you gave kind of an introduction of how the city of Gelsenkirchen, where you're from and where you're active, is facing a hard time to involve businesses in the local economy. And so there haven't been questions coming through the chat, but I have a provocative question actually that I had in my mind since the beginning of when we started discussing about this topic of how can we include business more, and even when we give the space for business to kind of come and participate and share their opinions and ideas, they don't do so. And since I also live in Germany and I've been experiencing the lockdown here, and it's been very, very strict, and I think a lot of the businesses, a lot of the people that have businesses in Germany that are closed might be focusing right now on surviving economically rather than thinking about climate action. So yeah, my question is, what kind of impact does the lockdown have on including and on businesses becoming more active? And isn't it maybe too ambitious to expect that they take up and worry about environmental questions right now? Or do you rather see the two things, that the issues coming from the pandemic and the lockdown can be tackled together? The environmental question.
Yeah, that's a good question actually. So I would say when we're looking at some of the bigger companies, bigger businesses that are acting locally, but also active in the complete outer region, big housing companies or energy providers, I don't think they are that much affected by lockdown to not talk about environmental action, because they already dealt with, restructuring their businesses to a more sustainable way for several years, even before COVID. But I think you're right in that smaller businesses so far are way in over their head right now to even think about the restructuring businesses to make themselves more sustainable. That will be a challenge to address that. I think in some kind of way we could tackle the questions the pandemic brings up, but also climate change and adaptation. We could tackle them in a way together. Some simple thing like home office. It's a solution in the pandemic to reduce contacts, but it's also a solution to reduce mobility, to reduce traffic and reduce emissions by traffic, instead of having all of your employees come to work by car. So there's some kind of overlap we think we can tackle, but it's also of course, it's a challenge to think about building these convincing cases, especially more when we're talking about being in the middle of the pandemic.
All right, thank you. I don't know, Ingchi, if you would like to add anything here.
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation, Stefan. You have mentioned you have actually started some work for your challenge. You also have mentioned you have started one-to-one conversation with, I guess, different size of company. So I would be very curious to learn from your conversation, because usually I would see this situation as a give and take. So it's quite clearly from the point of view of city, how we would like to achieve, so to speak, align with the climate goal or city policy priority. But from your experience, what will you say, what those companies want if they say there is such a, in the future, in the close future, there is such a digital community would be launched for Kirchenkirche? What kind of opportunity actually those companies see from their point of view? Are those more like kind of marketing oriented opportunity for them, or that they really see this is, I don't know, another kind of tool that can help them to recover from COVID, as Lucia had just mentioned? So I'm just curious to learn from your conversation already with those individual actors, private and from private sector. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Maybe to be more precise, we haven't actually held one-on-one talks so far. We're in the middle of planning them this week or next week. We're starting, I think. But I can also talk a bit of experience of other projects and talk with the stakeholders. Most of the bigger businesses, you know, housing companies, energy companies, you know, it's you're right, it's kind of hard to motivate them to what benefit do they actually have by participating in this digital platform also? Is it a marketing tool maybe? I think what we're trying to achieve is to deliver two benefits. You know, on one hand, the marketing benefit by communicating their projects, their reduction goals, their activities on our side, you know, to align them with the climate action in the city, to maybe show as a best practice, look at this energy company, it's also already reducing carbon emissions by that much, and this is in line with the city goals in that area. So we're trying to generate that marketing benefit, but by participating in this closed area more in the digital platform, we're also trying to provide a real benefit project-wise in an operational tool, to really provide them a tool for connecting. Because so far, most of the time you see those companies connecting in several workshops. They're talking face-to-face for maybe 2 minutes. They're exchanging business cards, and then they never hear from each other again. So we're trying to build a platform that's on a low level, where the people really responsible for the projects are able to connect to themselves and without any hurdles or you know, any hesitation between companies of maybe of different sizes, different backgrounds. So we're really trying to create a free space where they can benefit to really come together in their own projects and to deliver their projects most successfully.